with this. This is a lot of technical stuff, but she's having to reroute this video so people will be able to see it. So right now, what we're doing is we're going live, but then we got to go back and let people know where they can find this. Is a lot of technical stuff, but she's having to reroute this video so people will be able to see it. So right now, what we're doing is we're going live, but then we got to go back and let people know where they can find this. Is a lot of technical stuff, but she's having to reroute this. Sorry. Okay. Are we live?
Yeah, I think it's, I saw her.
I don't know. Can you check?
We're having trouble with their audience. Oh, I don't know.
Okay, I think she's just about to get it, and we are about to, I think we're live now. Are we ready?
I don't know.
Yes, we're live. We are. Okay. So can we go? Okay. Well, I'm hoping that we're live, and if not, I'm sure people will start texting me or calling me. It never fails. It's like right when you think you got technology going, Judge, we're back where we started at.
It happens.
But it happens. Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I know that you're in the middle of a trial right now, so we're just going to jump right in. But I want to first welcome our viewing audience just before we get into our discussion and conversation with Judge Consuelo Marshall. Welcome to the Beck Culture Exchange Center. Beck is the place where Black history and culture are preserved. And we've been here since 1975 doing this amazing work. We want to thank all of our supporters, our sponsors, and all of you who have been following us. This is our 19th town hall. We have been doing racial justice town halls since June of 2020 every month. Following the death or the murder, of Mr. George Perry Floyd, an unarmed Black man at the hands of the police on Memorial Day, May 25th, 2020 in Minneapolis, Beck launched its first virtual town hall discussion during our Juneteenth celebration, where we really had a conversation about racial justice. And we were in pursuit. How do we get racial justice? Well, from that first powerful conversation, it was evident that we needed to continue. So we've continued these discussions every month. And I know that there are those of you who are watching who have never missed a racial justice town hall. And to you, we say thank you. We hope that we're making a difference with these conversations and discussions. We want to thank the Beck Board of Directors, so we're very thankful to them and to all of our supporters. I don't have very long on this particular call. Usually I go through a litany of things that I want to say about Beck, but I have an opportunity to have the judge sitting in my presence, and I only have her for a brief moment because she is kind enough to break in trial, which she is in the middle of a trial, sitting on the bench even as we speak. And she literally is doing this for her hometown here in Knoxville. And I just feel very special. But I do not want to introduce her without introducing her bio because it's extraordinary. And I think it's worthy of my reading this. Joining us today is the Honorable Consuelo B. Marshall, Senior District Judge of the United States District Court for the Central District of California. Judge Marshall began her legal career as a deputy city attorney in Los Angeles. Judge Marshall was the first woman hired as a lawyer by the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office. Judge Marshall later entered private practice at the law firm of Cochran and Atkins. Judge Marshall left private practice for the bench, serving as Los Angeles Superior Court Commissioner, Inglewood Municipal Court Judge, and Los Angeles Superior Court Judge. Judge Marshall was appointed to the United States District Court for the Central District of California in 1980 by President Jimmy Carter. Judge Marshall became the 7th woman of color to serve as an Article III judge in the country. In 2001, she became the first woman to serve as a judge of the Central District of California. Throughout her judicial career, she's been an inspiration and mentor to hundreds of lawyers and judges who have followed her into the legal profession. Judge Marshall has received many awards, and I do want to look at some of these awards that she's accumulated because I think they're worthy to be talked about. She has received awards including the Criminal Bar Association Judicial Excellence Award, induction into the Langston Bar Association Hall of Fame, and the City of Los Angeles Hall of Fame, Los Angeles County, Angeles Country Bar Association Criminal Justice Section Career Achievement Award, Los Angeles County Bar Association Outstanding Jurist Award, California Women Lawyers Joan Dempsey Klein Distinguished Jurist Award, and the Bar Association Margaret Brent Award. She is active in her community. She has been all over the world. She is an alum of Howard University Law School, where as one of 3 women, she graduated 3rd in her class and was the editor of the Howard Law Journal. Now, all of this is wonderful, and I did not read all of it because, again, I want to save some time and I could keep going on. But what I want to say about her and why I'm so excited for many reasons to meet her and to get to have her here is that she's from Knoxville. And so this is one of our own. And Judge Marshall, when I first came to Beck, and I have been at Beck for 8 years, my predecessors are Mr. Avon Rollins. I don't know if you remember him, Mr. Robert Booker. And so Mr. Rollins has transitioned. Mr. Booker is still with us. And so both of the men were here and both were my mentors, and they were sharing with me the history of Knoxville. And Renee, when you come here, they knew that I was standing on big shoulders, and they made sure to tell me that. But when I came here, I'm walking around, and when I finally got bold and brazen enough to each one of them, Judge Marshall, I said, Mr. Booker, Mr. Rollins, I'm looking all over the Beck, and it's wonderful. The history is amazing. But did Black women do anything in history? Because everywhere I look, it seems like there's men everywhere. And they said to me both, they said, Renee, we've not done a good job at really telling the history of Black women. Needless to say, I said, fear no more. That will not happen. And I have to also tell you this, Judge Marshall. You were the one I wanted to meet from day one. And I'm not even just saying that. When I walk up to my office, I have to go up the stairwell, and we have what's called the Pioneer Staircase. And you're on the Pioneer Staircase with all of your accolades, your beautiful picture as I walk up and I tell your story to everyone that comes here. I had no idea that on this day, I would get the privilege to sit and have conversation with you. So while you are wonderful in all your accolades, I'm just proud to know that you're from Knoxville. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well, thank you, Renee. I should also thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with the audience this afternoon.
Well, thank you. I want to get into this pursuit. So this conversation is the pursuit of racial justice. And we wanted to talk about the historical journey of Black women judges. And of course, the importance of the confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the United States Supreme Court, and along with others. So Judge Brown Jackson is right now in the middle of that, and we want to have that conversation. But just before we get there, because I'll never get this opportunity, I hope I get this opportunity again, but I definitely want this opportunity to just, first of all, for those of us in Knoxville who want to know, you are from Knoxville, right? Tell us about your experience in Knoxville.
Well, of course, I was born in Knoxville. And lived in Knoxville until high school, actually senior year of high school. Then I left Knoxville and came to California, Los Angeles, because my mother was living there at the time.
And so you would have gone, so you went all the way up through to high school, your senior year. So what schools did you go to here in, I'm sure Austin High School?
Yes, and Beardsley Junior High. And then
Um,
elementary school, the elementary school that was closest to my home. I lived in the area of Knoxville College, within walking distance of the college. As a matter of fact, starting in junior high, every day I walked from school to the college. My grandmother worked on the campus. She was a cafeteria worker. So I went to the college every afternoon after school. And students at the college were mentors and often helped with homework and other assistance that I needed.
wow, what was your grandmother's name?
Geneva Arnold.
Geneva Arnold. So all of your family was here originally in Knoxville.
Yes.
Yes. Wow.
Both of
And
my
so when was,
parents were
mhm,
born there. Both of my parents were born there.
yes. And so when was the last time you were home?
Oh, it's been a few years, but I think there was a alumni meeting of Austin, and my brother and I attended that meeting. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but my brother also grew up with me in Knoxville, and as children, we did a lot of walking because our family did not own a car. And as we walked everywhere in Knoxville, we planned our career. He was always going to be a medical doctor, and he achieved that and practiced medicine here in Los Angeles for about 50 years. I was always going to be a lawyer, and of course, I've achieved that as well.
Wow. Tell me your brother's name.
Clyde T. Arnold.
Wow. And so he also is in California?
Yes, and he did graduate from Austin
Austin as well.
High
Austin,
School.
is he younger or older?
He's 4 years older.
4 years older. Okay, great. And I like this. Oh, I heard you say you walked and planned your career. Do you think that the schools here in Knoxville, like Austin High School, that Knoxville College experience, do you think that's a foundation that sort of propelled you to want to start thinking about your career? What made you want to start planning your career out?
Well, I think because at the time that we were growing up, everything was still segregated. So schools and public accommodations, we often went to the Bijou Theater, but of course we had to buy the ticket in the back and go up the steps and sit in the balcony. And I think all of those experiences just made me more aware that there was an injustice there. Why was all of this segregation? Also, many lawyers involved in the civil rights movement would often speak at public forums in Knoxville, like churches and schools. They often described their career, what they were doing to try to change the social justice system, certainly to desegregate schools and public accommodation. And I think I was just impressed with, I'd like to be one of those persons that would also help change the things that I saw that were unfair.
Wow. And it's interesting. You mentioned the Bijou Theater. Do you remember when you went to the Bijou Theater on Gay Street? Do you remember buying your ticket outside? And was the steps outside, or do you remember going inside to get upstairs to the second balcony, which the second balcony is where the Black people sat?
Right. We went inside, purchased our tickets there, and then went up those steps to the second balcony.
Okay, from the inside.
And I'm sure I questioned many times, why do we have to go up to the balcony? Why do we have to go to the back of the theater to purchase our tickets? because once you got in the theater, of course, you were aware there was more to the theater than what we saw when we purchased tickets and went up the back stairs to the balcony.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The reason I'm very intently on asking that is because I'm on the board of the Bijou Theater, and I'm also on the historical committee. I chair that to tell that story and to tell that history of Blacks being relegated to the balcony. Although when the Bijou Theater opens in 1909, it is the only theater that opens integrated but segregated within the facility, because of course the Tennessee Theater will be completely segregated and Black folks will not be allowed. But so having that experience and what that felt like. So here you are a judge today and you're remembering back to a time when you were relegated to the second balcony, which by the way is the best seats in the house. I don't think the irony of that, but notwithstanding, how did you feel?
Well, at the time, when you're growing up in this environment, you just accept it because you can't do anything about it. This is the way it is. And I think that's what impressed me with the fact I shouldn't have to just accept this. There should be a way to change this. And hearing lawyers that were practicing in the civil rights area, that's what they were attempting to do, of course, all over the South and in other places in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what impressed upon me. Maybe someday I could be one of those persons.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. But one more, let me ask you just a couple more questions about Mechanicsville, because that area is so important because Knoxville is changing a lot. In fact, you mentioned that you were here for the Austin reunion. We commemorated the Austin reunion in 2019, right before COVID, and that was the 140th anniversary. And we did that, and we had over 1,000 people at the Coliseum, or excuse me, at the whatever that is down there. Conference, yeah. And so it was in 2019. That was 140, and they're doing it every 5 years now. So I guess the next one will be 145 when they do that. And again, that was in 2019. But I'm interested because you are living in Mechanicsville. Are there any businesses or schools, or you talked about your schools, churches, or any things like people? And you even mentioned some of the people, some you would hear from attorneys and lawyers. I really want to glean some of that history that you experienced in Knoxville in terms of those people who were here.
Well, of course, I remember teachers, favorite teachers.
Okay.
My elementary school, I don't remember the name of the elementary school now, but the school was still there when I was last in Knoxville.
See, is it
Because I
Maynard?
remember
Yeah. Is it
yes, I
Maynard?
think so, that it was a school. And so we visited the school and took some pictures. We also went out to Beardsley, the junior high school at the time.
Yes.
And these were just all places that we walked, as well as the Bijou Theater. I was reared by my grandmother, and my brother and I lived with her. My mother lived on the other side of the town. So we often walked to her house to visit her, and then to the Bijou Theater. The church that we attended at the time, I think it was also not in Mechanicsville.
Okay.
So we either took the bus or walked to church on Sundays and went to the Bijou Theater afterwards.
Wow. Wow. Well, so let's start the journey to becoming a judge. So we see the inspiration coming from Knoxville and having sort of those experiences that propelled you to want to continue to fight for justice. So pick up the story when you leave Knoxville and go to California.
Well, I graduated from high school in Los Angeles, attended 3 years of college in Los Angeles, and then graduated from Howard. I went to Howard in my senior year. So I sometimes laugh about making these changes in the senior year, as I did with high school. I did the same with college. So I graduated from Howard and then enrolled at the law school at Howard University and finished law school there. I knew that I would come back to Los Angeles. And so I did, took the California bar after law school, and my first position was in the city attorney's office. City
How
attorney's office was a civil rights, was a city um, department, but it wasn't civil service. The first day that I walked in to look for a job after the bar results, I was told, but we don't hire women lawyers. So again, even in California, in a big city like Los Angeles, there were not women lawyers everywhere. And that's how I became the first. Johnny Cochran was in the office at the same time. As a matter of fact, I met Johnny at church. We went to the same church and we also attended the same high school.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we can talk about Johnny Crockett. That sounds like a great relationship and friendship. I'm sure you've got some great stories as well. How important was it that you went to Howard, to an HBCU, a historical Black college or university? How important was that? Because you matriculated not only through undergrad, but you went on into law school there too. So how important do you think that was in your journey?
Well, extremely important because at the time I thought, and I still think it's probably true. I believe Howard was the only law school that actually had a formal class in civil rights law. There were so many civil rights lawyers who were associated in various ways with Howard's law school, including Justice Marshall. So we learned a lot about the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and what they were doing to try to get things so that all of us could attend everywhere, public accommodations, schools, all those cases that were being litigated all over the South. So at Howard, we met those people. Some of them were our instructors. They shared with us the cases that they handled and the achievements that they made. So for me, it was an extremely important law school because at the time, I'm sure I thought civil rights was law, that those things equaled each other. I did not think at the time about other types of law and other types of cases. Howard was most important to me because it focused exactly on what at the
Mhm.
time I thought I would want to do after passing the bar.
So you passed the bar, you're in California, you're among the first women attorney, and I would imagine Black women attorneys. Uh,
No,
what was that?
just women. I was the first woman that was hired by the city attorney's office. And of course, there were not a lot of women lawyers at the time, and most of us worked for governmental agencies, either for the state, the
Mhm.
city, the county. There were probably very few women in large law firms. So I can remember even in Los Angeles attempting to interview with some of those large law firms during the summer while waiting for the bar results, didn't even get an interview. At that time, there were elevator operators, and so often I'd go into an office building, and elevator operator would be a Black man. And when I announced the floor in which the law firm was located within the building, he would typically say to me, "They're not going to hire you." And so, of course, I was outraged about that because I felt, you don't know anything about me and my grades and law review and all the things that I thought were important to getting a job. But of course, when I returned to the elevator to go back to my car, this same gentleman was, I told you so, and it was certainly true. So for women at the time, as I said, it was not a large number of women lawyers practicing, and certainly fewer women of color.
Yes. And so, but you weren't discouraged.
Well, no, because, I had a goal, I had a plan, and I was going to pursue that. And I knew it was going to happen. And of course, it did.
So take me from that journey from being an attorney now to making the transition to the judgeship.
Well, so I was asked the other day, so when did you decide you wanted to be a judge? So that was not a decision that I made. I mean, it wasn't on my radar. I hadn't given any thought to being a judge. But sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time. And so there were various mentors and others that were encouraging me to express an interest in becoming a judicial officer. The first position that I held was as an as needed referee in juvenile court. And it was during the time that I was in Johnny's law firm practicing there. But this as needed position was you would serve only when you were available. So it was almost like a substitute teacher. They needed an extra person. You were available. And so at the time, I had a young family. And so I was only available on Fridays, I think once a month. So I volunteered my services to do that. And as a result, I got the exposure of being in a courtroom adjudicating matters. And someone asked if I would consider applying to become a Superior Court commissioner. And at the time, I thought, well, I'm not ready to do this now, maybe later, but I want to have more flexibility, and private practice is giving me that flexibility. And I have a young family and I want to spend time with them. So maybe later. So that was a lesson for me to learn too, that I often share with others who are making career choices. Sometimes things are offered to you earlier than you expect. And you often feel, well, I'm not ready to do that now. But of course, you have to be realistic. If it's something that you may want to do someday, maybe you can't say no. You just accept that you're going to be on a path a little bit earlier than you expected. So being a judge was not something that I planned, but many people encouraged me to apply and accept positions. And it was earlier in my career than I expected. But after being appointed to the Superior Court as a commissioner, I was assigned to juvenile court, spent a few years there, then appointed to municipal court. At the time in California, we had both municipal court and Superior Court, and it was just based upon whether a case was a misdemeanor or a felony, or the jurisdictional amount, the amount that was being requested in a civil case for damages. And that is how one determined, is it a municipal court case or a civil or a Superior Court case. So I was appointed then to the Inglewood Municipal Court, the first woman to be appointed to that court. And I can remember the first day I walked into that court, lawyers were saying, oh, but you're going to be advanced to the Superior Court, or you may be going to the California Court of Appeal. So I was surprised by all this because it was just the first day. I'm just now here. But it was a quick move for me. I did not spend much time in municipal court. The governor called one day and asked me to come to Sacramento to have a conversation with him. And he asked at that meeting, why did you accept the position in municipal court when you were a commissioner in Superior Court?
Uh-huh.
As if, my appointment should have been to Superior Court rather than
Right.
municipal court. Of course, that's not a question that I could answer. He's the appointing authority. But shortly thereafter, I was appointed to Superior Court. And I stayed in that assignment for about 3 years and then appointed to the federal court.
Wow. So we've been in pursuit of racial justice, and I'm sure you've seen some things throughout your journey, getting where you are today. If I ask you, what is racial justice? How would you define racial justice?
Gee, that's an interesting question. What is racial justice?
Mhm.
Well, I think of justice as being equal to all who appear in the justice system. So appearing before the court um, and also working with lawyers in the criminal side, in the civil side. So what we're hoping to accomplish is that everyone leaves the process, whether they win or not, feeling that they have been treated fairly. We use the expression justice has been done.
Mhm.
We're all given an opportunity to be heard. And ultimately, we know that someone will win, someone will lose. If we think of that in terms of who gets a verdict, who wins in a civil case, whether or not someone's convicted in a criminal case. So since we're looking at everyone, that would include every ethnicity, every gender. And so we want to make sure that all are receiving fair treatment, and in that way, justice is being done.
And how important do you think you're an African American woman sitting in on the bench in the high office, and there are not very many of you. How important is it to have African American women sitting on the bench as a judge?
Well, the bench should be representative of the community. And we know how important it is when we get young visitors in our courtroom, sometimes elementary school students, junior high, high school. And for a young African American girl to say right in the courtroom, I could hear it, the judge is a woman who looks like me.
Mm.
You can tell in that voice how important it is to enter this space where the woman sitting there is also of the same ethnicity, a
Mhm.
Black woman. I'm sure, and then many times, not necessarily a Black youngster, but just a girl
Mhm.
who is entering the courtroom beaming because there's a woman on the bench. But a few years ago, someone remarked that their son said, men can't be judges, they're all women, because his association was, I'm just meeting women judges, I'm not meeting male judges. And his mother may have been a judge as well.
Okay.
But it's also important because we all bring with us, as we decide cases, our life's experiences.
Mhm.
And as a Black woman, of course, I've had many experiences that others may not have had. We talked about growing up at a time when there was segregation, discrimination, and living in that environment and overcoming that. So if I get a case before me that involves something that's similar to my own background,
Mhm.
at least I I know these things happen, and I can
Mhm,
better understand
mhm,
what happens to the person who's in that position, more so than someone else who maybe has never had that experience. We also want our community to feel that the bench is representative of the community. There should
mhm,
not be all men or all non people of color.
mhm,
Also, economics is very important. There shouldn't be all wealthy people.
mhm.
Um, I think colleges from which we graduate and law schools from which we graduate, uh, that brings something that others may not have because we've had a different experience. So it's important to the whole community that the bench be diverse.
Well, speaking of that, we have an opportunity for the highest court in the land to be diverse. And Ketanji Brown Jackson is right now um, going through the process. Uh, how, can I just ask you how you're feeling about this process that she's had to go through?
Well, first, for the process, all federal judges go through that process.
Mm-hmm,
Um, Not as much attention may be paid to us who are in trial courts and circuit courts as the highest court in the land, the United States Supreme Court. So our hearings may be televised. I don't remember if mine was, but if so, if it was televised, I'm sure that not many people looked at it, unless there was someone who actually knew me. But the process, I think, is a good process. As she introduced herself the first
mm-hmm,
day, introduced her family, her children, her parents. My mother was present with me at my confirmation hearing, as my children were there, my husband was there. A few friends who lived in Washington, D.C. were also there because these hearings do take place, as you could see from this most recent hearing in D.C.
mm-hmm,
So we all go through that process, and I do know others. One of my former law clerks has been nominated for the court on which I sit. Another colleague who's presently working in our court has also been nominated for a district court judge position. They are having their hearings
mm-hmm,
and being questioned in the same way.
mm-hmm.
So I think it's a process. I think many of the questions, as we probably all, as we listen to them, are not focusing so much on the qualifications of the candidate
Right.
uh, as other things that probably have nothing to do
Mm-hmm.
with the position that she will occupy. But of course, it's very exciting for all of us to finally see a Black woman being appointed to the court. I mean, we have one present Black man. We had an earlier one, Thurgood Marshall being the first, but we have not had a Black woman. So it's time. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing a wonderful job
Yeah.
responding to the questions that are being asked of her, and we are all just awaiting the confirmation.
Yes, and we're very excited. And I just, as I guess when I was thinking about the process, I think you hit on it very well in terms of the line of questioning that she is, and she's doing a really good job because it's difficult to watch for me, the line of questioning. So I choose not to. I feel bad about that because I feel like she needs me to be supporting her and watching it, but it just sometimes feels a little overwhelming to watch us have to go through some of those things that have absolutely nothing to do with the qualifications. And I'm wondering, um, have you had any experiences on your road to judgeship where you have had to do or say or a process that really had nothing to do whatsoever with your qualifications?
Oh, sure. I think we all have, because those who are um, maybe unlikely to support us or concerned as to why we were chosen in the first place to do something for which we're being considered. Um, they are in another place. And so they're not asking questions about qualifications. And I think the ones who are questioning now, we all know they don't doubt the qualifications. I mean, they're
Correct.
there, academically, as well as experience. I mean,
Mhm.
she served on the trial court, the appellate court. So clearly, maybe one of the reasons that they're not focusing on qualifications is because they don't have any question about the qualifications.
Okay, I'll
Definitely
take that.
qualified. So then they are looking at other things, like maybe articles that you wrote at some point in your life or board on which you served. Um, so I think many of those questions may be asked because they don't doubt the qualifications.
Mm. Well, I think that's a good way to look at it. I hadn't looked at it that way, so I think that's a great way to look at it. Um, what's your advice if you could give her some advice, or any of us who might have the opportunity to be there? What one piece of advice would you want to give?
I don't think there's any advice that I would give. She's handling her own quite well.
Yeah.
She's extremely articulate. I was reading a piece just this morning in our legal newspaper, and someone had authored a article about the style of writing and what we would expect of her opinions, not the decision that would be made, but just the style and the opinions that would be produced. And so this person had gone back to look at orders that she issued, opinions that she issued as a trial judge and as an appellate judge,
Mhm.
and just was describing the expectation of what we will see in her opinions that she will author, and all very positive. So
Good.
I don't think she needs advice from us. I think we just need to be supportive.
Yes.
I was impressed, and I think you probably saw this on the news prior to the hearings commencing. Some of her friends who were at Harvard at the same time that she was there, I think there were 3 or 4 Black women who were at Harvard when she was there, and they were all so supportive. And so these women said, well, we're not surprised because she's so smart,
Yeah.
so confident, all the characteristics that we
Mhm.
are seeing. So
Wow.
I think she needs support. I don't know that she needs advice.
Well, all right, then how about you give us some advice for those of us, and particularly young Black girls who would like to pursue racial justice in this manner, or justice in the highest courts, as a judge sitting on the bench. What piece of advice would you give to a young Black girl living in Mechanicsville today?
Well, first, I think it's important to have goals and dreams. That's what my brother and I had. I mean, they were just dreams, but we talked about them all the time, and we didn't allow anything to get in the way of those dreams. Why we chose what we chose, we're not so sure today. I've explained why I chose law, but for some reason, medicine was what he focused on
Mhm.
and pursued. So, first, I think you need to have goals. I think you have dreams, just things that you want to do. And
Mhm.
then you prepare yourself for the goals that you have chosen. Now,
Mhm.
you may change your mind about those things. So, for instance, one may think, I want to be a lawyer. And so, for their academic career, they are doing what one needs to do to accomplish this goal. But people sometimes change their mind and decide to do something different, and that's okay. We see a lot of people today that are pursuing second careers after spending maybe many years in the first career that they
Mhm,
chose. So I think the goals are important, the dreams are important. Obviously, the scholarship is most important.
mhm,
So you do have to work hard.
mhm,
You have to have good study habits. You must write well. Writing is extremely important for lawyers and obviously judges.
mhm.
Research skills, and these are the things that the writing, of course, you're introduced to that writing very early, uh, elementary school. The research skills, of course, you're introduced to those in law school. But you need to be strong in both the writing and the research and continue to improve.
Yeah.
Even as judges, we often have educational programs
Mhm.
on writing to improve
Oh,
our writing.
yeah.
Reading, obviously, extremely important.
Mhm,
You want to do a lot of reading so that you can understand history,
mhm.
all of the history of the
Yes.
world, the country, our own history. And all of that's important. And I mentioned sometimes you have an opportunity to do something and you think you're not quite ready to do it, but you may pursue something because the opportunity presents itself. Being a part of organizations that will expose you to that career that you think that you might may choose is very important because there you get mentors
Mhm.
uh, and others who can help you understand the path you should take. There was the first woman of color uh, appointed as a judge in Los Angeles, in the state, I think, of California. Her name was Vano Spencer. And
Mhm.
as a young lawyer, I had a case in her court one day. I didn't know her, but she was a beautiful woman, and I'd seen her in the courthouse. And she asked her bailiff to ask me to come back and join her in chamber. I did. I was just so impressed with the space and the woman and the conversation.
Yes.
But she became a mentor for me
Mm.
and for many women, the young women lawyers at the time. It was Justice Spencer who would often call us and say, "You have to do this. You have to be in this place. Something's
Mhm.
going on. You need to apply." And so I often say, we just couldn't say no to Vano. So whether we wanted to do it or not, we always said yes. And through the
Yes.
years, I remember her being at my enrobing ceremony when I was appointed to the federal
Wow.
bench. And so mentors are wonderful, and you should take
Yeah.
advantage of people who are willing to act as your mentor. I'm surprised at how often I say to a group, call me or write me, contact me
Mhm.
if I can help you in any way. And I'm always surprised at how few people take me up on
Actually
that.
take you up on it. Wow. Yeah, I can't imagine. Just tell me, I'll call you. Uh, I was gonna, I was gonna ask you. You've been on the bench for a long time. I have to be honest with you. When I was looking for you, I wasn't looking on the bench for you. I was sure you had retired, and
Uh-uh.
so I'm just curious. Um, you talked about all these careers and I'm going. How long are you going to be on the bench? I mean, you've been working hard for a long time.
Well, it is true, and it's hard work, but it's work that I love.
Yeah.
And so, my response to how long, I think as long as I'm capable and as long as I'm
Wow.
enjoying it, because enjoying it is a part of it. I mean, if you don't enjoy something that you're doing, you need
That's
to
right.
consider doing something different. But one of the things about the federal bench, there's no mandatory retirement. It is an appointment for life pursuant to Article 3 of the United States Constitution. So we are permitted, after serving a certain number of years, as a federal judge, and age is a part of it. So the younger you're appointed to the court, the longer you have to serve to meet this requirement. So it's called senior status. And when you achieve that, you can work, you can do zero amount of work or 100% of the work. It's left up to you. You
Wow.
get to pick
I
and
mean, you're
choose
sitting
the
on the bench, right? You're in
cases.
the middle of a trial right now. I mean, I'm interrupting a
Yeah.
case right now that you're sitting on the bench of, and I can't believe that you gave me this time. So it's clear that you don't know how to slow down, and you're still going full force.
Well, and the thing is too that when you're rearing a family, you're very busy. But then when that family grows up and they are taking their place and doing the things that they are prepared to do, then you have more time.
Yeah,
So at this point in my life, I have time to do it. I'm
yeah.
still enjoying it. Yes, this is a jury trial because I can pick and choose what trials I want. I've chosen civil cases, so I no longer have any criminal cases.
Mhm.
And the civil cases can be very complex. I mean, we have patents and other types of intellectual property, securities law, antitrust law.
Mm.
And so when you asked earlier about the law school days, I just thought law was all about civil rights.
Mhm.
But there are, of course, a lot of other types of cases. So I continue to enjoy it and would imagine that, I'll do it as long as I'm enjoying it.
Judge Marshall, have you made a difference? Do you really feel when you look back over your career that you've made an impact, especially and I'm just going to be very blunt, as a Black woman, having traversed this field and this process and made it to where you are, and as you look back over that journey, do you feel like you've made an impact? And if so, what do you think that legacy is? What do you think that impact is?
Yes, I definitely think I've made an impact. I believe that when we're in positions that we hold, we are opening the doors for others to pursue and to even rise above where we are. People open those doors for us. Constance Baker Motley was a wonderful mentor.
Mhm,
The lone woman with the civil rights team.
mhm.
She argued many cases before the United States Supreme Court. So yes, being there, you're making an impact. Doing a great job, even a greater impact.
Yeah.
Exposing others to what you're doing and mentoring others, even a more important impact. So yes, I feel that I've made an impact. I think I've made a difference.
Mm.
And I am just, delighted that I could share some of these things with your audience
Yes,
this
absolutely.
afternoon.
So here I am sitting in this chair. I'm at the Beck Culture Center. I stand on the shoulders of great people before me. But I'll be honest with you, I'm telling you, I look at your picture hanging on the wall every day as I walk up to my office. Can you? I'm just going to be selfish for one moment. I need you to pour into me. And so I literally find myself all the time, not only teaching history and running the museum, because that's my calling right now. I'm a preacher of the gospel, a Baptist ordained minister. I love our community. I love the people in this community. But the work that I find myself doing, because as museums begin to advance and find their places and spaces in this world, we find ourselves doing the social justice. We find ourselves using history as our leverage to the future and today, so people understand some of the struggles of Black people. I just want you to pour into me, Renee. Here is what I think is important for you always to remember. Can you finish the story?
Well, yes, you should always remember there are others out there who are prepared to help you achieve what you are trying to achieve. We all want to encourage, we all want to help, we're there for you. So I think it's important to remember that there are people that you can go to, have a conversation with them as you are doing, and focusing on what is it that you're trying to achieve that someone else may have travel that path and can help you better understand what your goals should be and the direction which you should be traveling.
Yeah.
So the message is keep on doing what you're doing,
Okay.
encourage others, reach
Yeah.
out to those people who can encourage you. And so I'm looking at the clock. So it looks like I have just about 2 minutes left before I need to go back into the courtroom. No time
Yes,
for
ma'am.
lunch today. So,
Okay, so
but
you got
it's
to come
been
to Knoxville so I can buy you lunch.
okay. Well, so that's a promise. So, yes.
Okay.
Is there something else that I
No,
can
is there
answer?
anything else you want to say that I haven't asked?
No, I think not. I think you've done a good job of asking me questions that have,
Yeah.
it's given me an opportunity to share those things about my career that
Yeah.
I love and that I think are so wonderful.
Well, we love you here in Knoxville and we tell your story and we celebrate you and we thank you. I thank you not only for your time, but I thank you for your courage. I thank you for tenacity, your fight. And I thank you because you are truly one of those that we're just going to call our heroes right here in Knoxville. So thank you.
Well,
Best
thank you for
wishes
all of
on the
this, and
trial.
I've enjoyed the time. So I'll
Yes,
sign off now.
yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you have been watching the Beck Culture Exchange Center, and we have been talking to Judge Consuelo B. Marshall. And while we have been talking to her about her life, it's really difficult to talk to someone who is from Knoxville, who is a native of Knoxville, and not talk about their life here in Knoxville. So today has been a very special treat for us because part of what we do here at Beck is we also do oral histories. We want to hear their stories of the great people who came this way. Thank you for joining us as we continue to have these didactic conversations with people on every area. It is important, as Judge Marshall said, that we have a variety of folks who represent our community in those positions in the courtroom doing that amazing work that they do, that it's well represented. So to all of our young people who are watching, who are going through school, I loved what Judge Marshall said. She said, me and my brother walked alone, and I want to say that exactly how she said, and we planned our careers. We had to walk everywhere. So during the walk, we planned our careers. I hope that you're planning your career and that no matter what the challenges may be, that you try a career that will help you in your pursuit of racial justice, social justice, whatever it is, that we can leave the world better than we found it. As I said, I am Reverend Renee Kessler, president of the Beck Culture Exchange Center. This is our racial justice series. This is number 19 of the series. Each month we do these series and we will not stop. We're going to continue to have these conversations. Please continue to support the Beck. You can go to beckcenter.net anytime, sign up for our e-newsletter, which we send out every week, as well as make a donation and support Beck. We're also excited about our Delaney Museum that will be coming online. Beck is committed to preserving and conserving this rich history that we have. We love our community and we love our pursuit of racial justice. So thank you for joining us